from. So just to tell you a little bit about STARR, though, STAR stands for the St. Louis Area Regional Representatives. We're made up of about 25 to 30 admissions counselors who live and work locally here in the greater St. Louis area. We represent schools from all over Illinois, Missouri, throughout the U.S. And our goal is basically to assist and provide services for high school students, their families, and our counselors in the area. And so we just thought it would be a great opportunity to share these search series with you. And we hope to add some more in the spring as well. Sammy, if you jump to the next slide, I'll go ahead and tell you guys how tonight will go. So starting off for the first 20 or 30 minutes, Sammy and I will be going through a quick presentation about your next steps. And then from about 6:30 to 7:30, you will hear a quick 2.5-minute presentation for all of our reps who are in attendance tonight. So don't forget the survey in the chat box. And with that, I will kick us off. So as some of you seniors might be realizing right now, especially as your admission decisions begin kind of flowing in, there are a lot of next steps that colleges and universities are asking of you, many on different timelines because every university is different. So if you thought deciding kind of where to apply was difficult, just wait until you actually have to make that one decision of the one school you're going to attend. So it's our hope that the tips that we share tonight will kind of make that process a little bit less overwhelming for you. I'm actually going to pass it off to Sammy now, and she's going to get us started with some info on how housing works.
Yes. So let's get rolling. So a lot of the things that we're going to say today, you're going to hear us say over and over and over again, are different school to school. But we're just going to give you some general information and questions that you can ask as you're being admitted to universities, colleges, looking all over. These are some things that you're going to want to be aware of. So we're going to start with housing. Where will you live? Some schools have a live-on requirement. That's what it's going to be called at most colleges and universities. Are you required to live on campus if you're going to be a student there? Some schools do have a requirement that first-year students are asked to live on campus. That could be for a lot of different reasons, but it's convenient, it's easy. Traditionally, they're either on campus or very close to campus. But that's a question you want to be aware of as you're being admitted and trying to figure out what your next steps are. Now, another question kind of attached to that is, do first-year students or freshmen typically live in certain places? And that's a great question to ask because that's something you need to be aware of as you're going through housing processes. Are there freshman-only dorms? So are there places that freshmen live and nobody else lives there? And is that somewhere that you either have to live or might want to live? Are there campus apartments that you have access to? And is that something that you can do in your first year or even your second or third year after that? Is that a possibility for your living situation? Or are there even things like residential freshman interest groups? So these can be anything. They can be topic-based or related to different programs. So maybe students in a certain major live in a certain dorm, or students who are in a certain academic college, so a group of majors live in one place, or maybe they just kind of depend. These look different at every school, but schools oftentimes do have opportunities for you to live with similar-minded people. That's really helpful for you to build community, to make friends, to network, get to know people, and get out of your room a little bit more with a comfortable group of people that you are familiar with. That is a really great way to get involved and just start your college career off in a really great space. No matter if you're going somewhere that you're really familiar with and have a lot of friends, or if you're going out of state and you might not know anyone, interest groups are a great way to kind of zero your world down a little bit and make things feel a little bit more familiar. So no matter the school that you look at, every school also has a very unique housing process. Whether you're required to live on campus and it has just contract and room selection, or you have to indicate your interest in living on campus, these are some kind of typical steps that you'll have. So interest form, if you are not required to live on campus and you have to indicate that interest. Your contract, which says, hey, yep, I'm going to live on campus. This is me signing up for that. Generally paired with some kind of payment or deposit towards your housing. So that's something that you want to be aware of too, is your housing process at the schools that you're looking at, because it's probably different school to school. Another question that kind of comes after that would be, how are roommates selected? And that is a great question. And there are kind of a couple ways that you can pick roommates. Matching systems, very similar to like a dating service. If you were to go online, build a profile, say, hey, I stay up late, or I'm a messy person, things like that, and it can match you with different roommates that it thinks are compatible with you, as well as something called random, or sometimes it's called potluck. If you just kind of want to sign up and you go through and you get assigned a roommate, that's an option too. Or sometimes schools, even just that's how it is that they just assign you different rooms, or direct selection. So if you know who you want to live with, you have a friend from high school, a friend from your hometown that you want to live with, direct selection would be picking exactly who you want to live with. But one of our big tips when you're going through housing and starting to consider where you're going to live would be virtually exploring as many options as you can. Whether you're able to go on a campus visit or not, lots of schools have great websites that are full of resources for you to tour different places where you can live. And because of COVID, a lot of universities aren't necessarily doing as in-depth tours of their residential spaces as they might have before. But websites have great 360 tours that you can take and go see all the different accommodations and things like that. But just kind of things to go by and language that you might want to know too. Things like suites or private style rooms typically cost more because they have kind of an upgraded experience, and things like traditional or community style rooms do tend to be a little bit cheaper. So there's just some tips that you want to be aware of and know about. But I'm going to pass it back to Ashley to talk about kind of how you can stay connected.
So it definitely goes without saying that the more you're connected, the less likely you are to maybe miss a deadline or an important date. And so, one of the most important things that you should realize with going through this college admissions process is that in the college world, deadlines are extremely strict. And they usually have little to no leniency. So, organization is really important because after you're admitted, you'll need to keep track of scholarship deadlines, housing deadlines, FAFSA, confirmation deadlines, just to name a few. So we always encourage students to maybe have an Excel sheet going of the colleges you're applying for, all of their deadlines listed, choosing, staying organized with dates that you turn things in, just to make sure that you're meeting those deadlines. Um, so one example of that, just how strict you are, about 4 years ago, I was working with a top end student who had a 35 composite ACT and nearly a 4.0 unweighted GPA. And at the time, she qualified for kind of our top competitive scholarships where she could have potentially gotten a full ride to attend Kentucky as an out-of-state student. However, even though I worked closely with her and said December 1st, December 1st, December 1st, on December 2nd, she texted me and said, I tried to submit my application last night and it told me that I was too late. And so on the back end, we looked at it, realized that she submitted it at 11 something Central Time, which we're here in St. Louis, but in Lexington, we're on Eastern Time. And so by that rule of thumb, she was late and then was no longer considered for any of those scholarships. So definitely stay on top of them. One of the easiest ways to kind of stay in the loop, though, is to frequently communicate with your admissions representative. And it's likely that we are over communicating with you right now. And so we totally understand that. But we do want you to know that we're doing that so that you are kind of not missing those deadlines. So we also encourage students and parents to reach out to us as well. No question is too small. We would much rather you guys reach out with the simplest question, and, be up to date with everything than for it to be too late and you to miss out on something. On that note, another good way to stay in touch is to check your email. I know you guys are getting bombarded with emails right now, but it's likely that this is where the majority of the reminders are coming from. And an insider tip is that a lot of times on the back end, colleges and universities can see whether you open up an email or not, and how long you look at it. So if you're looking to show kind of demonstrated interest and keep in touch, make sure you're at least opening it up and taking a peek. After you're admitted, it's also a good time to check on additional scholarship and financial aid opportunities. And this looks different at each school. Sometimes it's smaller schools, your admissions representative, like all of us here tonight, We may be the person who kind of walks you through that financial aid process and answers those questions for you. However, at larger schools like Kentucky, you are assigned a financial aid counselor who will walk you through that process. So you can give them a call, they'll go over your financial aid package, explain your FAFSA results, things like that. So it's just important to know that there's always someone kind of in your corner to walk you through. And we know that it's really confusing. So definitely reach out if you do need a little bit more assistance understanding how the FAFSA and departmental scholarships and all of those things work. One of the questions we encourage you guys to ask is whether or not the university will allow you to submit additional test scores even after the date that they've mentioned. So I know in the era of COVID, we're trying to be a little bit more lenient with students. Some of the deadlines are deadlines, but again, it never hurts to ask. And they might even say, as long as you have a test on file by that deadline, we might take the December test, even if the deadline is December 1st. We know that the December ACT is in early December, so we might still accept that one. So definitely ask. It doesn't hurt. And with that, you might also ask if you do retest and they accept those scores. If you were to receive a higher score, would they then bump up your scholarship offer? All right, Sammy, I'm passing it back to you.
Okay, we're back. So another thing that you can consider as you're thinking about where you want to go, what you want to do, it can almost be kind of overwhelming by all the choices that you have, especially if you've been admitted to multiple schools and you really aren't sure how to narrow that list down. And we kind of want to walk you through some of the things that you can or should be thinking about as you're making decisions on schools. Maybe you applied to certain schools because they have a great program that you're interested in, or you're really familiar with the school, or it's close to home, or it's far away. No matter what it is, everyone goes through their own process as they're thinking about school. So we wanted to list up here some different categories, different options that might be non-negotiables for you. So we just kind of wanted to put these up here so you can see all the different things that you can or maybe should be considering as you're making your decision about where you're going to go. Location, what kind of area do you want to be in? Because the town surrounding the school is almost just as important as the school where you're going to go, because that's where you're going to live and that's where you're going to be for the next multiple years of your life. So the town that you're in might really matter to you. Do you want to be in somewhere more urban? Do you want to be in a more rural space? Does that even matter to you? Things like that as you want to go through your process and as you want to consider where you want to be and where you want to spend your time. The culture and the vibe of the school. What do you want it to feel like? Do you want it to be a large kind of public university? Do you want it to be something smaller and private? Different options on there, but what do you want the feeling of the school to be like? That's something that matters to some people as well. Diversity and the diverse makeup of the students that go to the school. Does that matter to you? Out-of-state students, how many students are from out of state? How many students are from in the state where you choose to go? Is there diversity and ethnicity of students that attend the university? Things to think about and things that matter to you as you go through your process. What size is it? Is it small? Is it medium? Is it super large? And that's when that visit really comes into play, where you get to go spend time on the campus and really walk around and see and feel. A lot of these non-negotiables will kind of come to life for you. So going on that visit is a really great way to kind of feel some of these things out. You can do some great research on some of these things online, but some of them go directly with just kind of putting your own feet on the ground and being able to feel all these different things. Another non-negotiable, and what it really comes down to after you've been admitted, now what, would be cost. What does it look like? How financially affordable is it? What's the out-of-pocket cost? How much aid are you going to get? What kind of scholarships are you eligible for? All those things play into that bigger picture of what it's ultimately going to cost you. And sometimes finances are what makes that decision after you've been admitted, but those are just things to know about. Other things to think about would be things to do. What kind of clubs and organizations can you join? What does the collegiate experience of your life look like? Do you want to do research? Again, that college town that we talked about before, but going to college is more than just the academics, and that's the important part, and obviously that's why you're going, but your college is an experience for the next multiple years of your life, and what do you want that to look like? Do you have an idea of wanting to go to great sports or wanting to make just incredible research moments in your undergrad? What do you picture for your time in college? And does the school that you're choosing or looking at line up with that? And then ultimately, too, career goals. Where do you want to be after you graduate from college? What kind of space do you want to be set up to succeed in, and what experiences are going to get you there? And does that college match up with those goals? Ultimately, everything together, you want to find the school that's going to be the best fit for you academically, socially, and financially. I know students that I've worked with before have kind of put colleges in like Venn diagrams and seen where do all these things, all these non-negotiables, where do they cross? What schools does that make sense for? And that is something that you can do yourself, do with your family, do with the people who are going to be helping you make these decisions to make sure that whatever you choose to do, whatever decision you make, meets as many of those things that are your non-negotiables, because this ultimately is your decision. Which kind of goes into the second thing that I have on here about talking to a current student and talking with someone who goes to that school. Can you talk to someone who's from your hometown or someone who is in the same major as you? Major bonus right there. Like I said, there's a lot of research that you can do online, but it's totally different when you're talking to someone who's really living the life that you want to live right now, who's doing the things that you want to do, involved in the things that you want to do. And that's something that us as college reps would love to do, would be to connect you with different students who are just a few steps ahead of you and are doing some really cool things. That is something that you can do now that you're admitted and take that kind of next step. It's important to ask things that are important to you and your decision. I said it before, but everyone's decision process in college selection is unique to them. Do not listen to anything that anyone has told you or things that you've heard from maybe older kids in your high school. This is your college journey and it's your decision and your choice. And you want to make sure that you're asking the things that are important to you, that are going to get you the answers that you need to ultimately make that choice and kind of decide on the school where you're going to go. So Ashley's going to talk about the exciting stuff of what happens when you have decided and what goes on from there.
Yeah, and before I jump into that, like that you just like sparked something in me. I know a lot of times students, it's difficult because students think, "Oh, I have to find the one school that is the right fit for me." And the reality is that you guys can find multiple schools where you're going to eventually be happy at. So, I don't want you all to think that you're looking for that like one unicorn school. There's only one place that you're going to be happy and successful, because that's not the reality. I think that you guys can be happy at multiple places. But obviously, the more research you do and the more prepared you are for the process, I think that the whole process will be a lot easier for you to kind of find your place. So, as far as confirming your spot, this really looks different at every institution. How do you tell them that you are wanting to attend their university when you finally made your final decision? I think a good rule of thumb is to always refer back to your acceptance packet. Usually in that packet, they will have kind of a list of next steps for you, including towards the end how to confirm your spot. So, some common ways this might be asked of you is maybe a written commitment, maybe via email. It could be a financial deposit, um, also by registering maybe for an orientation or by indicating so maybe on a student portal. A lot of our universities, once you're admitted, will ask you to kind of create your, activate your student email or your student portal. And that portal is where you are going to do multiple things: apply for housing, possibly confirm your spot, register for classes, pay bills, things like that. If you do need assistance paying for your enrollment deposit, a lot of times many schools will accept financial fee waivers. So if you're on free or reduced lunch, have a Common App or an ACT fee waiver, or maybe just have an extenuating circumstance because hello, COVID, just ask your counselor or your admissions rep, and we will definitely tell you how each of our institutions go about that. Lastly, it's important to know that the national decision date is May 1st. So that means colleges and universities don't necessarily expect students to make final decisions before that date. If you are ready to make your final decision and you know where you're going, that is wonderful. Go ahead and confirm your spot. We love that. But we also know that it takes time to narrow down your list. So take the time if you have it. May 1st is kind of that big date that we're looking for. Now, once you've made your decisions, we do ask you to kindly decline your admission to the schools that you've applied to, have been admitted to, and let us know. And I think students are kind of shocked. They're like, "You want us to let you know that we've, made a different decision." I promise you, We won't be offended. We won't be upset with you. What it will do is it will allow us to kind of spend our effort and our time really reaching out to students who are still considering our schools. Plus, it will save you, tons of receiving, all of our emails and phone calls. We won't bother you as much. Um, However, you know, letting us decide you're attending somewhere else will also withdraw your application from our school. So you just have to make sure that decision is definite. Because once you do so and we kind of withdraw all of those things, it's really difficult, if not impossible, to kind of go back and kind of redo everything once it's already been withdrawn. Um, a simple email. I know that we put kindly decline your admission. No one likes to get broken up with harshly. So just a simple email saying, hi, my name is Ashley Beck. Maybe your date of birth or your high school, and just say, I'm writing to let you know I will not be attending the University of Kentucky next fall. Please withdraw my application. I appreciate, the opportunity. Something like that is really kind, and we really do appreciate that, just to kind of clear our records too. Because leading up to May 1st, that big deadline, we are frantically trying to reach out to all of the students, and you'll see it coming. So if you do make your decision early, just let us know. It definitely makes us happy.